There was no sound when it shifted, no warning card in the air. Something I had been holding for years simply wasn't there. I waited for the absence to hurt, for some dramatic collapse, but the room stayed quiet around me as if nothing had happened. The walls didn't, the sky didn't break, only a space where weight used to This is the shape of what remains, not broken, not repaired, just open in a different way, like something once compared. I don't recognize the outline, but it carries my name. This is the shape of what remains. I used to measure myself by what I refused to release, by the tension in my shoulders, by the language of resistance. Now there's a slower rhythm moving beneath the skin, not asking to be followed, not demanding where I've If I reach for who I was, my hands return me there. There's no tragedy in that, only unfamiliar care. Maybe what survived doesn't need to be the same. Maybe what is left isn't meant to be explained. This is the shape of what remains after the noise grows thin, after the story loosens and the silence settles in. I stand inside the outline without needing to defend. This is the And I am learning how to stand. No ceremony, no goodbye, just space where something used to try. chair moves slightly on the floor, a quiet friction in the wood. The window breathes against the frame like it always understood. The cup rests warm between its hands, steam rising without a plan. Nothing here is trying to become more than it is. Footsteps cross the narrow wood, then fade into the wall. The distant car beyond the street doesn't interrupt at all. The clock continues patiently without a need to cool. The time is not dramatic when there is nothing left to lose. There is a language in small things, in the way the daylight falls, in the breath between two movements, in the stillness of these walls. No revelation waiting, no vision from above, only the sound of small things becoming enough. Thought the distance lived above him, somewhere past the reach of sight, widening blue beyond the rooftops, holding answers in its height. He carried that horizon like something far away, measured all his longing by how high the daylight stayed. But space began to gather in places he had closed. The sky opens inside, not above, not beyond. It rises the space behind his chest, in the pause before a movement, in the moment left uncrest. All that wants to find him lose their easy line. What felt like separation softens over lived above him. He thought the distance lived. He thought the distance lived. Shadow leans across the floor as daylight shifts its tone. The kettle hums a steady line in a rhythm of its own. The hand rests loosely on the table, no urgency to move. Each second passing quietly, with nothing left to prove. Curtains sway without a cause and fall back into place. sound dissolves outside without leaving a trace. The clock continues in its way, unbothered by the day. Moments drift without a need to be held or pushed away. Everything is enough as it is, in the light and the air in between, in the space where nothing insists, in the calm of an unspoken scene. There's a quiet kind of fullness that doesn't need to begin. Everything is enough as it is. He once waited for a signal, for a moment to arrive, but meaning never entered through a louder kind of life. It settled in the ordinary without announcing where, in the way a room can hold you without knowing that you're there. Everything is enough as it is, in the pause in the unseen flow, in the breath that doesn't resist, in the pace that moves slow. There's a sense of something steady that doesn't need to be found. Everything is enough as it is. Stop rehearsing the reasons. They no longer stayed in place. Every answer I used to carry faded without a trace. There was a time I could trace it back, tie every thread to a cause. Now it drifts without direction, unbothered by any laws. No signal to follow, no need to translate, just breathing a quieter state. There's no need to explain what doesn't ask to be named. I move without the old ways, without the need to be framed. I don't hold up a reflection for anyone to reclaim. There's no need to explain. To edit my silence so it wouldn't feel unclear, shape every pause into meaning, make sure it could be heard. Now I let the gaps stay open, let them fall where they may. There's something honest in not knowing what I don't need to say.
Television murmurs softly from across the living room. Thin light slips between the curtains, painting lines across the floor. A fan turns with tired patience, pushing warm air through the day. Coffee cools beside the window while the hours drift away. Cars dissolve beyond the balcony like waves too far to hear. Someone laughs outside the building, then disappears somewhere. The sink still holds last night's glasses, untouched beside the stove. Nothing asks to be completed, Nothing needs to go, everything moves slow today. In the hum and the faded light, in the space between small sounds and the stillness of the afternoon sky, there's a quiet kind of comfort hidden underneath the gray. Everything moves slow today. Trying not to feel alone. Now the room breathes around him like a place already known. No revelation enters through the apartment walls, only little pieces of living, soft enough to go unnoticed at all.